The human man sacrificed himself to protect the alien girl, and now the alien woman became his wife. The port of Kavis, 9 smelled like burnt ozone and fried noodles, which to Kaelen's mind summed up the entire universe in 2 distinct categories: things that could kill you and things you could eat. He wasn't particularly good at distinguishing between the two, which was why he had once tried to chew on a ration pack labeled, "Not fit for human consumption," and why he now found himself dodging sparks from an overloaded cargo droid while balancing a steaming bowl of noodles. He muttered to himself about retirement, though he was only 30, and about how the cosmos clearly had a personal vendetta against his socks. They had been soaked twice in coolant leaks this month alone, and no matter how many laundromats you passed, nothing could erase the smell of ionized coolant. If he ever died in space, he suspected the coroner would take one whiff of his boots and list negligence by sock maintenance as cause of death. Kaelen had no intention of becoming a hero, no dream of saving damsels or alien empires. His dreams involved a quiet trading ship, a reliable engine, and preferably a fridge that didn't scream at him when he opened it at midnight. But the universe, being the petty jokester it was, had other plans. It started with a noise, not the usual hiss of docking clamps or the wheeze of an overworked fusion core, but a sound that didn't belong in a spaceport, the sharp cry of someone running. Kaelen turned, noodles halfway to his mouth, and saw her. She slipped through the crowd like light, through fractured glass. Human at first glance, 2 arms, 2 legs, a face shaped by desperation, but there was something different, something that made his noodle bowl tremble. Her ears were long, curving back in elegant arcs, twitching every time someone in the crowd shouted. A few passers-by stared, but most looked away quickly, pretending they hadn't noticed. Kaelen didn't. He stared like an idiot, and then promptly burned his tongue on hot broth. She collided with him, nearly knocking the bowl from his hands. He staggered, cursing the laws of inertia, and managed to save the noodles with the grace of a drunken ballerina. "Move," she hissed, eyes wide, breath ragged. Kaelen glanced over her shoulder and spotted a group of men pushing through the crowd. Not dockworkers, not traders, mercenaries, armored in mismatched gear and carrying blades that shimmered with a faint energy pulse. One of them shouted in a language Kaelen didn't understand, but instinct told him translated to something like, "Stop her before she gets away." Normally, Kaelen would have stepped aside. He wasn't the sort to insert himself into other people's troubles, but something in her voice, in the way her long ears flattened against her head like sails in a storm, triggered the part of his brain that usually got him into trouble. The part that whispered, "If you don't do something stupid now, you'll regret it later." He lifted his bowl of noodles. "Sorry, wrong guy," he told the mercenaries, slurping loudly. "You must have me confused with someone more blade-friendly." They didn't laugh. Mercenaries rarely did. The girl tugged at his sleeve. "Please." That was all it took. Kaelen sighed, muttered about how this was going to ruin his socks again, and dropped his noodles onto the nearest droid cart. Then he grabbed her hand. "Fine, but if I die, I'm haunting you. And I snore in the afterlife." They ran, through alleys slick with spilled fuel, across bridges that trembled with hovercraft traffic, past stalls where vendors shouted angrily about unpaid snacks. Kaelen stumbled twice, cursed a dozen times, and discovered that alien girls with long ears could sprint like their lives depended on it. Probably because they did. When they finally ducked into a shadowed maintenance tunnel, both gasping for breath, Kaelen leaned against the wall and wheezed. "So, do you make a habit of dragging strangers into your near-death experiences, or is this a special occasion?" She stared at him, wary, uncertain if he was mocking her or insane. Probably both. "They want me," she said simply. "Yeah, I got that impression," Kaelen replied. "But what did you do? Steal their lunch money? Forget to compliment their terrible fashion sense." Her ears twitched. "I was born." Kaelen blinked. He opened his mouth, closed it, and finally muttered, "Well, that's dramatic. But listen, lady, I'm just a trader with bad luck and worse socks. If those mercs are after you for existing, maybe you should find someone less disposable than me to help." For the first time, a ghost of a smile crossed her face. "You didn't let go." Kaelen snorted. "That's because you run like a plasma storm and I didn't want to faceplant. Don't read too much into it. But he knew, deep down, that he had already stepped off the safe path of noodles and socks into something far stranger. He could feel it in the way her eyes lingered on him, a mixture of suspicion and fragile hope. He could feel it in the pounding of his chest, louder than the hum of the port around them. And somewhere, far above the tangled steel and neon, the stars themselves seemed to lean closer, waiting for what he would do next. Kaelen's first mistake was assuming the mercenaries wouldn't check the maintenance tunnels. His second mistake was forgetting that his lungs had the stamina of a retired vacuum cleaner. By the time the echo of boots rattled down the steel corridor, he was hunched over, hands on his knees, whispering to the alien girl between gasps, "If we live, remind me to invest in a treadmill." She didn't answer. She was listening, her long ears quivering like antennae tuned to danger. Kaelen, not wanting to be outdone by her superior biology, cupped his own ear dramatically. "Don't worry, I've got this too. Years of experience eavesdropping on my neighbor's arguments back on Terra 4. You'd be amazed how loud people get over who ate the last slice of synthetic cheese." Despite the danger, her lips twitched, almost a smile, but it vanished when a harsh beam of light slashed across the tunnel. The mercenaries were close. Kaelen's hand brushed his belt, but all he had was a half-dead blaster with a battery pack that complained more than it fired. He could hear the faint whine of its charged cell, which he swore sounded like it was begging him not to try. The girl whispered, "If they find me, they will kill you too." "Comforting," Kaelen muttered, "really making me feel like this was a great life choice." He looked around the tunnel for inspiration. Inspiration turned out to be a rusting service hatch with a blinking red light that almost certainly meant "do not open." Kaelen grinned. "Perfect." He yanked the hatch open, grabbed her hand again, and shoved them both inside. The panel slammed shut, just as the mercenaries' light swept across the space they'd occupied. Inside was pitch black. The air smelled faintly of oil and something that reminded Kaelen of burnt toast. He fumbled for his wrist torch and flicked it on, revealing a cramped shaft filled with pipes and cables humming with energy. The girl stared at him like he was insane. He raised a finger. "Yes, this may be a death trap, but look at it this way. If we get electrocuted, at least the mercs won't get the satisfaction of killing us." She shook her head. "You are reckless." "I prefer spontaneously creative under pressure," he shot back, crawling forward. His knees immediately regretted the decision. "And don't worry, I have years of experience navigating tight spaces. I once got stuck inside a food dispenser trying to fix a jammed snack cartridge. Long story. Mostly shame." The pipes vibrated as they moved, the hum growing louder. Kaelen felt the charge in the air prickle against his skin, like the entire station was alive and annoyed. The girl's ears flicked every time a new vibration passed. She seemed to know exactly where to turn, guiding him with short gestures. Kaelen tried not to think about how far they were from breathable air or safe exits. After what felt like an eternity of crawling, they emerged into a chamber humming with energy coils. The walls pulsed faint blue, like veins carrying power. Kaelen whistled. "Well, this is either the heart of the station or a really ambitious glowstick factory." The girl crouched by one of the coils, her hands hovering near it. The faint glow in her skin, which Kaelen had barely noticed before, seemed to respond, shimmering brighter. "Okay," he said, watching. "That's new. Do I get an explanation, or are we just embracing the mystery vibe here?" She looked at him, hesitant. "My name is Liara. My people, we carry energy inside us. That is why they hunt me. The crystals in my bones can power ships, weapons, even cities." Kaelen blinked. "Crystals in your bones. That sounds both horrifying and like something someone would try to sell in a fancy jewelry shop. New from Zephyr Designs, Femur Sapphire Collection." Her expression was flat, but her ears twitched in a way Kaelen decided was suppressed laughter. He took it as a win. Liara touched the coil, and the chamber lights flickered. For a moment, the hum softened, as though the station itself sighed with relief. Kaelen's eyebrows shot up. "So you're basically a walking rechargeable battery. That's handy. Probably why the mercs want to stick you in a blender." Her face darkened. They would not blend. They would carve. Kaelen winced. Wow. Okay. That's worse. Definitely worse. And here I was hoping this was just about unpaid space taxes. Before Liara could answer, the floor shook. A dull boom rattled the chamber. Kaelen nearly bit his tongue. Oh good, more friends. Through a vent in the chamber wall came muffled voices. The mercs had tracked him again, sealing off exits. Kaelen glanced around frantically, then spotted a maintenance rail leading upward into the darkness. All right, he whispered. Plan B. We climb. Unless you've got some miraculous teleporting ability you forgot to mention. Liara raised a brow. You first. Of course, Kaelen muttered, grabbing the rail. Because if I fall, you get a handy example of gravity in action. The climb was brutal. Kaelen's arms shook halfway up, and he muttered about regretting every skipped gym session. Liara followed effortlessly, her movements graceful, as if gravity didn't dare argue with her. When they finally reached the top, Kaelen collapsed onto a grated platform, wheezing. Next time, we take the elevator. Liara crouched beside him, her ears listening again. Below, the mercs shouted, searching. Up here, in the shadows, Kaelen let out a shaky laugh. So, to recap, you're glowing, crystal-boned, hunted by mercenaries, and somehow I'm your reluctant sidekick. And all I wanted today was noodles. Liara tilted her head. You could leave me. Kaelen groaned, sitting up. Yeah, I could. But then I'd just spend the rest of my life wondering if you ever found safety. And besides, you still owe me for those noodles I sacrificed. That's practically a blood debt. For the first time, Liara smiled. It was faint, fragile, but real. And Kaelen, exhausted and aching, found himself smiling back despite everything. Somewhere below, the mercenaries barked orders. Somewhere above, the stars shimmered unseen. And between both, in the dim light of the platform, a reluctant trader and a hunted alien girl sat side by side, bound by something neither of them fully understood yet. Kaelen discovered that hiding from mercenaries was a lot like trying to avoid his landlord back on Terra 4. You could change corridors, disguise your face, even crawl through vents, but eventually someone with a grudge and too much free time would track you down. The difference was that his landlord never carried plasma rifles. The grated platform where he and Liara had taken refuge rattled each time the station's engines shifted power. Kaelen leaned against the rail, wiping sweat from his forehead. So, he said between ragged breaths, what's the long-term plan here? Hide forever? Start a vent-cleaning business? Because if we're just winging it, I'd like to file an official complaint with management. Liara sat cross-legged, her ears twitching as if listening to vibrations in the metal. There's no plan yet. Only survival. Ah, Kaelen said, nodding. My favorite strategy. Worked wonders in my dating life. Her eyes narrowed in that way that suggested she didn't know whether he was joking or pathetic. Kaelen decided not to clarify. Instead, he dug into his coat pocket and pulled out the remnants of his lunch. 2 soggy dumplings wrapped in foil. He held them up like treasure. Look, food. Proof the universe still loves us a little. Liara regarded the dumplings as though they might explode. What is it? Don't ask. Just eat. She nibbled, her nose wrinkling. Kaelen laughed. Yeah, welcome to human cuisine. Half flavor, half regret, but it keeps you alive. Before they could finish, the platform shook violently. An alarm blared through the station, followed by the cold voice of the docking AI. Unauthorized boarding detected in Sector 5. Security lockdown initiated. Kaelen nearly choked. Oh good. Someone else decided to crash the party. Any chance it's a surprise birthday celebration? Liara's ears angled sharply. No. It is more mercenaries. They will search every level now. Kaelen groaned. Perfect. Just when I thought this day couldn't get worse. Next thing you'll tell me is they've cut off access to the noodle stalls. She gave him a look. You joke when you should be afraid. He shrugged. If I don't joke, I'll panic. And when I panic, I hiccup. Trust me, hiccuping while running for your life is embarrassing. Still, panic was crawling in at the edges. The mercenaries weren't going to stop. And Kaelen knew. deep in the part of his brain reserved for catastrophes. That sticking with Liara meant no going back to his old life. Traders with targets on their backs didn't get invited to friendly port bars anymore. The sound of boots echoed upward through the shafts. Liara stood quickly, her glow faint beneath her skin. We must move again. Kaelen sighed and hauled himself up. One of these days, we're going to sit still long enough for me to finish a meal. Just once. That's all I ask. They slipped into another maintenance passage, this one slanting downward toward the underbelly of the station. The air grew hotter, heavy with the thrum of reactors. Pipes hissed around them, leaking faint vapor that smelled metallic. Kaelen muttered, "If this place blows up, I want it on record that I objected to walking into the engine room." Liara ignored him, moving with a strange certainty. She pressed her palm against bulkheads now and then, as if listening through her bones. Kaelen finally asked, "How are you doing that?" She glanced back. "The energy. It hums. I can feel it." He raised an eyebrow. "So basically you're a cosmic tuning fork. That's actually useful. Do you also get radio stations?" Her ears flicked in that way again, the one that might have been amusement. No stations. Only currents. Shame. Would have loved some background music. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, the station's auxiliary power core. Blue light pulsed through giant columns, casting strange shadows. Kaelen whistled. "All right, I take it back. This is impressive. Also terrifying, but mostly impressive." Liara stepped closer to one of the columns, her glow intensifying as though answering the hum. Kaelen watched uneasily. Should I be worried you're about to short-circuit the station?" "No," she said softly. "It listens to me." Kaelen rubbed the back of his neck. "Fantastic. You're friends with the power grid. I'll just stand here, completely normal, definitely not freaking out." Before he could ramble further, voices echoed through the chamber entrance. The mercenaries had found them again. Kaelen swore under his breath. "Why can't we ever get 5 minutes? Just 5. Liara turned, her expression calm in a way that unsettled him. "Stay behind me." "What? No, that's—" But she was already raising her hands. The glow spread from her skin, through her veins, until her whole body shimmered with light. The air crackled. Kaelen's hair stood on end, his blaster whining as though jealous. The mercenaries stormed in, blades and rifles raised. Kaelen ducked behind a railing, muttering, "This is it. This is how I die. Not with honor, not with glory, but hiding behind a power core like a scared accountant." Then Liara unleashed the energy. It burst from her like a shockwave, slamming into the mercenaries, with a sound like tearing lightning. Their weapons sparked, overloaded. Armor plates lit up as though on fire. Kaelen peeked over the rail, jaw hanging. "Okay, that's new. Remind me never to get on your bad side." When the light faded, the mercenaries lay scattered, groaning, weapons useless. Liara sagged slightly, but her gaze was steady. Kaelen rushed to her, helping her stand. That was incredible. Terrifying, but incredible. "Seriously, you should have led with that when we met. Would have saved me from nearly getting stabbed." Her voice was quiet. "It takes much from me. I cannot do it often." He nodded, supporting her weight. "All right. So you're like a starship engine. Great power, but lousy fuel economy." She tilted her head. "Fuel economy? Don't worry about it. Just means we need to keep moving." As they slipped through a side passage, Kaelen glanced back at the fallen mercenaries. He knew they'd be back on their feet soon. He also knew he was in far deeper than he'd ever meant to be. But when Liara leaned against him, exhausted yet unbroken, he decided he could live with that. Because for once in his life, running away didn't feel like losing. It felt like the beginning of something worth fighting for. Kaelen woke to the sound of something dripping. For one brief, beautiful second he thought it might be coffee, but no, it was coolant. Again, he groaned, rolled over on the grated floor, and stared at the flickering ceiling panel. "I swear, the universe has it out for me. Every time I close my eyes, coolant. Not rain, not waterfalls, coolant." Liara sat a few meters away, her long ears angled toward the corridor outside. She hadn't slept. Her glow was faint, barely a shimmer now, like a star smothered by clouds. Kaelen pushed himself upright, rubbing his neck. You know, if you keep staying awake all night, people are going to start calling me the lazy one in this partnership. And that would be very hurtful, considering how much effort I put into not dying yesterday. She glanced at him, expression unreadable. You snore. Kaelen froze, indignant. That's classified information. Besides, it's not snoring. It's dramatic breathing. Her ears twitched, which he was beginning to recognize as her version of laughing. Kaelen took the victory and pretended it was intentional. They had hidden deep in the underlevels of the station, a place even the mercenaries hesitated to enter. The air smelled of metal and dust, and every sound echoed too far. Kaelen adjusted his jacket and sighed. So, we can't stay here. And unless you've got a teleport button tucked behind one of those fancy ears, we're going to need a ship. Liara's eyes met his. You have one. Kaelen hesitated. His ship, the eavesdropper, barely held together, loud as a drunken orchestra, and currently docked 3 sectors away, under a very visible berth. The idea of trying to sneak aboard it while mercenaries hunted them was about as appealing as licking a plasma conduit. Right, he said finally. I do have a ship. Technically. But she's temperamental. And loud. And allergic to stealth. Then we move quickly. Kaelen sighed. I was afraid you'd say that. They set off, weaving through the underlevels. Kaelen tried to keep quiet, but his boots seemed determined to clank like dinner bells. You know, he whispered, if we survive this, I'm inventing a stealth boot. Soft soles, no squeaks. I'll make a fortune. Liara gave him a sidelong look. You think of profit while hunted. Of course. Fear and capitalism, 2 of my strongest qualities. They reached a cargo lift that groaned like it hadn't been maintained in decades. Kaelen pressed the panel, and the whole platform rattled awake. Perfect. Just the kind of lift you want when your life depends on it. As they ascended, Kaelen noticed Liara staring at the control panel, her fingers twitching slightly. The lights on the panel flickered in response. He frowned. You're doing that, aren't you? Her voice was calm. Machines listen when I ask. Kaelen blinked. Okay, that's either very convenient or very creepy. Maybe both. The lift shuddered to a stop. When the doors opened, the sound of chaos spilled in. The docking sector was alive with shouts, alarms, and the distinct whine of ships powering up. Mercenaries were everywhere, checking ships, interrogating crews, scanning faces. Kaelen ducked back inside, whispering, All right, new plan. We dig a tunnel, live underground, raise a family of sewer rats. Nobody finds us, everyone's happy. Liara didn't answer. She was already stepping forward, her posture steady, her ears angled toward the noise. Kaelen groaned. Why do I even talk? You never pick my plans. They slipped into the crowd. Kaelen kept his head down, muttering complaints under his breath. Liara walked with the strange grace of someone who didn't belong, yet refused to hide. More than once Kaelen tugged her ear down, hissing. Subtle. Try subtle. Long ears kind of stand out, you know. Her calm reply. I cannot remove them. Well, sure, but you could at least pretend to be half human. Maybe say you're from, I don't know, the planet of stylish ears. Big fashion trend. Despite everything, she almost smiled. The eavesdropper was in sight now, her patched hull gleaming faintly under the hangar lights. Kaelen's heart lifted, then promptly dropped again when he saw the squad of mercenaries patrolling near her. Of course, he muttered. Guard duty. Because why would anything ever be easy? He crouched behind a stack of crates, thinking. His brain, in moments like these, usually produced ideas ranging from bad to catastrophic. All right, he whispered. Option 1. We run screaming. Hope they panic. Option 2. I throw something shiny to distract them. Option 3. You do that glowy shockwave thing again and hope the ship doesn't explode. Liara shook her head. Too many. I cannot. Kaelen rubbed his face. Figures. My life really is just one long series of increasingly stupid decisions. Then Liara placed her hand against the crate. The faint glow spread from her skin into the metal, crawling like veins of light. Kaelen's eyes widened. Wait, are you? The docking lights flickered. The alarms cut out. For 3 heartbeats, the entire sector plunged into darkness. Then emergency lights snapped on, bathing everything in red. The mercenaries shouted in confusion, their scanners glitching. Liara whispered, "Now." Kaelen didn't need telling twice. They sprinted across the hangar, weaving between confused guards. Kaelen's lungs burned, his legs ached, but the sight of the eavesdropper was enough to fuel him. They reached the ramp just as one of the mercenaries spotted them and shouted. Kaelen slammed his fist on the entry panel. The ship groaned awake, lights flickering like tired eyes. "Come on, girl, don't fail me now." The ramp lifted as plasma fire scorched the floor. Kaelen stumbled inside, pulling Liara with him. He collapsed into the pilot's chair, slamming switches. The eavesdropper shuddered, engines roaring like a beast dragged from sleep. Outside, mercenaries scrambled, weapons blazing. Kaelen gripped the controls and muttered, "If you've got any prayers, now's the time." Liara placed her hand on the console. The glow spread again, syncing with the ship's systems. The shuddering eased, the roar steadied, and for the first time in years Kaelen felt the eavesdropper respond like a living thing. He laughed, half mad, half exhilarated. "Oh, I like you. Both of you. Let's fly." The ship blasted free of the hangar, weaving through turret fire, streaking into the void. Kaelen hooped, punching the throttle. "See you later, mercenary scum." Liara sat beside him, her glow fading, her eyes calm. "We are not safe yet." Kaelen grinned, adrenaline still pumping. "Yeah, but we're flying. And that's a start." And as the stars stretched before them, he realized he wasn't just running anymore. He was choosing, and that made all the difference. Kaelen had never seen space look so empty and so crowded at the same time. The stars stretched endlessly, but behind them the mercenary fleet flickered on his scanners, like a bad rash that refused to go away. The eavesdropper rattled under his hands, every alarm screaming at once. He slapped the console. "Quiet. I can only panic about one thing at a time." Liara sat beside him, her glow faint but steady, her long ears angled toward the hum of the ship. "They will not stop. As long as I live, they will follow." Kaelen shot her a sideways glance. "Well, that's cheerful. Got any more motivational speeches? Or should I start writing my will? Spoiler, I'm leaving everything to my socks. They've suffered the most." Despite the danger, her lips curved into the barest smile. It gave him the courage to keep flying, weaving through bursts of plasma fire. He had been running his whole life, running from bills, from responsibility, from anyone who might expect him to be more than he was. But now, with Liara leaning against the console, trusting him, he realized he wasn't running anymore. He was choosing to fight. The mercenaries closed in, their ships bristling with weapons. Kaelen gritted his teeth. "All right, girl," he whispered to the eavesdropper. "I know I've been rough on you. Kicked your panels, cursed your engines, threatened to sell you for scrap. But if you've got one miracle left, now's the time." The ship groaned in protest, then surged forward as Liara pressed her hand to the controls. The glow from her skin flowed into the console, and suddenly the eavesdropper flew, as if the stars themselves were pulling her along. Kaelen's jaw dropped. "Okay. Note to self. Never insult the glowing crystal-boned woman. She upgrades your ride." They dove through the asteroid field, mercenary ships smashing against rocks as they tried to follow. Kaelen laughed wildly, adrenaline rushing through him. "Look at that. We're untouchable. We're legends. We're—" The ship lurched violently, a plasma shot grazing the hull. He flailed. "We're doomed. Definitely doomed." Liara's calm voice cut through his panic. "Not doomed. Not yet." She closed her eyes, her glow intensifying, and the asteroids around them began to shift, drifting into new patterns. Kaelen blinked. "You're moving the rocks. You're actually moving the rocks." She opened her eyes. "Energy flows through all things. I only ask it to change." Kaelen muttered. "Great. My wife's a cosmic electrician." Then he froze, realizing what he'd said. Liara tilted her head. "Wife," he stammered. That's not, forget I said that." But she didn't forget. Her faint smile lingered as the last mercenary ship crashed into the rocks. The scanners cleared, leaving nothing but silence and stars. Kaelen sagged in his chair, every muscle trembling. We're alive. I can't believe it. We're actually alive. Liara leaned back, exhaustion in her eyes. For now. They will come again. Kaelen rubbed his face, then leaned toward her. Then let them. We'll keep moving. We'll keep fighting. And maybe, just maybe, we'll find somewhere they can't reach. She studied him, long ears twitching. Why stay? You could leave me. Go back to your quiet life. Kaelen laughed, bitter and soft. Quiet life. That was never me. I just didn't know it until now. Besides, you're the best thing to ever happen to me. Even if you nearly got me stabbed, electrocuted, and crushed by rocks. For the first time since they met, she laughed. Not a small twitch of her ears, not a faint smile, but a laugh that filled the cabin like music. Kaelen grinned, letting it wash over him. The ship drifted into the calm between stars. Kaelen leaned back, his eyes closing for a moment. So what now? Liara touched his hand gently. Now we live. Together. Kaelen opened his eyes, looked at her glowing softly in the dim cabin, and felt something shift deep inside him. The man who once complained about socks and noodles had become someone who could bleed, fight, and laugh for another. Someone who could finally belong. He squeezed her hand, his grin crooked. Fine, but I'm warning you. If we're doing this together thing, I'm picking the vacation spots. And no glowing crystal bone festivals. I draw the line there. She shook her head, smiling, and leaned closer. Agreed. The eavesdropper slipped quietly into the starfield, carrying them away from hunters, away from fear, and into a future neither of them had expected but both of them had chosen. And for the first time in his life, Kaelen didn't feel like he was running. He felt like he was home. The end,